The Greater Bridgeport Regional Council consists of 6 member towns, including Trumbull, Easton, Monroe, Bridgeport, Fairfield, and Stratford. We are a regional organization, but we distinguish between regional services and regional planning. We're involved in regional planning. Okay. We are also a conduit for grants that benefit the member towns. And I think it's important to note that we don't take away services from the towns or control from the town. We provide an opportunity for our member towns to come together to have an administrative staff here in Bridgeport funded largely by state and federal monies that benefit the individual towns, but more importantly, the region. It's important to note that the funds that are available to us as a regional council would not be available to the individual members.
We were very pleased working with the GBRC and our Economic and Community Development Department in securing a $1 million grant for the design of a river walk along the rear of our downtown, which is along the Rails to Trails path.
Perhaps a perfect example of the benefits for smaller communities is the GIS mapping project. Simply put, GIS mapping allows communities to take a massive amount of information and put it on the computer, largely to benefit public safety in terms of crisis and emergency. We were able to obtain a $1.4 million grant for the purpose of establishing a GIS mapping system, web-based, that would be accessible to all the member communities, but would be controlled by each member community as to which information from the municipality would be available to others. 5 of the 6 member communities did not have a GIS mapping system because they just simply couldn't afford it. They couldn't justify it in their local budgets. Easton, for example, was one of those towns. We now have a state-of-the-art GIS mapping system underway, which will be available to our 6 member communities before the end of the year. As a result, we have not only the economies of scale associated with having a centralized administrative function, which again is funded by the state and the federal government, but also the opportunity to access funds and grants that would not be available to each of the individual member communities, particularly smaller towns such as Easton and Monroe that don't have the same amount of state roads and highways of the sort, and can come together with larger municipalities in order to make application for these important source of funds.
Greater Bridgeport is a linchpin that connects the tri-state area to the rest of New England. It's an area where 95 and the Merritt Parkway meet Route 8, meet 25. It is an economic linchpin. If you make investments in transportation, I believe that promotes greater opportunity for economic development. I think it's important for every mayor and first selectman to not only appoint people to serve on the board, but to be on the board themselves and be decision makers. It forces collaboration among the chief executives in every community, where you're working with each other, you're working with your counterparts, whether it be in another town or city, and you're talking about the issues that affect your communities in both a singular and a regional context. I think our single greatest asset is talking about what we can do to improve transportation infrastructure, which in turn will have a ripple effect to improve economic development in the region.